Committee. The aim of our committee is to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive among the people of the municipality of Gooise Meren, especially among school children. The focus is on young children of around 12 years old. Since 2019, the Holocaust has been commemorated in our municipality, always with a link to a local event. Today, we pay attention to the Jewish family Pfeffer, who were hiding during the war here on the Vaartweg in Bussum. The people who ensured that the Pfeffer family survived the war have been posthumously honored by Yad Vashem with the title Righteous Amongst the Nations. However, due to Corona measures, the relatives of these people cannot be present here. But because the meeting is being streamed, these relatives who live in Israel, Australia, Canada are still able to watch this commemoration. And that's why the meeting is in English. But before we tell you more on the hiding of the Pfeffer family, I would like to give the floor to the mayor of Gooise Meren, Han ter Heegden.
Ladies and gentlemen, warmly welcome to you on behalf of the City Council of Gooise Meren, Bussum, Naarden, Muiden, Muidenberg, and on behalf of also of the Council of Mayor and Aldermen. I welcome you to the annual Holocaust Memorial Day in Gooise Meren. This day commemorates worldwide, you said it already, the Holocaust, in which approximately 6 million Jews died as a result of the genocide. In Naarden-Bussum, Muiden and Muidenberg, more than 1,400 Jewish fellow citizens were forced to leave their homes, and over 600 never returned. And today marks the liberation of the infamous concentration camp of Auschwitz-Birkenau by the Russian Red Army on January 27th. It remains incomprehensible what the soldiers found when they reached the extermination camp. Just about 8,000 people remained. The rest of the survivors were sent on so-called death marches. The scale of the operation of the camp is unbelievable. And what always comes to mind is, how did it come to this? What does the Holocaust say about humanity and us humans? In Amsterdam, the Holocaust has been commemorated annually by the committee Nooit Meer Auschwitz. Plans arose for the construction of the Holocaust Memorial Monument with the 104,000 names of Dutch, Jews, Roma, and Sinti victims of the Holocaust. The municipality of Gooise Mere was contacted in 2018 to make a financial contribution for this monument. And this resulted in the birth of the local Holocaust Committee, Gooise Mere, which has been organizing this commemoration since 2019. The committee also develops other activities aimed at education and information, especially for the youth. As mayor of Gooise Mere, I'm particularly proud that we have a local committee that is so active that it looks also beyond just this day, and that the feeling is shared by others. The committee already won the Peace Prize of Gooise Mere a few years ago, and Annette Betzalel, one of the driving forces of the committee, was elected Bussumer of the year 2020. The great thing about the committee is that they have reduced the drama, the crimes, indescribable in nature and magnitude, to the scale of our town and our streets. In Bussum, Naarden, Muiden and Muidenberg, more than 600 Jewish residents were deported during the war by the Nazis to never return to their homes. Ordinary people that lived close to us, more than 600, amongst which more than 100 children were killed. And that is what we remember here today. The local committee has given those victims a face, like the 15-year-old girl Ethel Weiss from Naarden, who was murdered with her family in Sobibor. But also the stories of those who survived miraculously must be told, like the Pfeffer, you mentioned it, the Pfeffer family, who went into hiding in Bussum and survived the war. It is important that these stories continue to be told. The forum, the committee has found for the story of the Pfeffers a special children's book that also comes to the life with films and animation, as is an original as it is valuable. A few months ago, Annette Betzalel and I visited the new Holocaust Memorial Monument designed by Daniel Liebeskind in Amsterdam. And I was impressed where the clean and the simple design and the strong message that it is told, that it holds. Those big walls with all those stones that together holds 104,000 names of men, women and children that lost their lives, have a big impact on you and on me. It motivates me to stay vigilant and to say never again. We should learn from the history and we should never forget what happened. In October last year, I became an ambassador of the Westerborkpad, a 340-kilometer long walking route that starts at the Hollandse Schouwburg in Amsterdam and leads via a station Naarden-Bussum to Hooghalen, where Camp Westerbork was located. And from Westerbork, the Jews were sent to their death in camps abroad. And when you walk this route, you follow the trail of the victims of the Holocaust. Some years ago, my wife and I, with our children, visited Camp Westerbork, so that our children could learn, as we told, never again, and that you have to work on it, to give action to it. And today, we remember the 600 fellow citizens of Gooisemere. We will never forget and pass this message on to our children and grandchildren. They shape the future, hopefully a world without hate, racism, prejudice and death. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mayor. In the former speeches, there was some mentioning about the Pfeffer family and the link we have tonight on this family, on the book, the children's book we mentioned, also on the Yad Vashem, Righteous of the Nations. And I will give you a short summary on how these three topics work together. And afterwards, I will give the floor to Annette Betzalel. The righteous amongst the nations are honored by Yad Vashem, and the righteous are non-Jews who took great risks to save Jews during the Holocaust. Rescue took many forms, and the righteous came from different nations, religions, and walks of life. What they all had in common was that they protected their Jewish neighbor at a time when hostility and indifference prevailed. Over 5,700 Dutch people received an award from Yad Vashem as righteous amongst the nations, in Dutch, rechtvaardige onder de volkeren, because they had saved one or more Jews from deportation by the Nazis during the Second World War. For example, by having them go into hiding at their own home. In our municipality, Gooisemere, many people have been recognized by Yad Vashem. I kindly invite you to go to the website of Yad Vashem and zoom in on Bussum, Naarden, Muiden and Muidenberg. And what you will see is that there are many stories of people in our municipality. And one of these stories is the hiding of the Pfeffer family. Annette, who will speak after me, has done a really great job by writing down the history in this children's book. The book is called De Wereld van Max, The World of Max. It is a hiding story of a Jewish boy, Max Pfeffer, who is 12 years old and who went into hiding here with his family, as I just mentioned. And the special thing about the book is what our mayor just mentioned, it is that it's very modern, it's interactive. By means of QR codes that are incorporated in the pictures of the book, the children gain access to films about hiding, resistance, and collaboration. It's a very modern form of education. We as a committee want to provide the book free of charge to all students from group 7 and 8 of the primary schools in our municipality. And we would like to thank all people who made this possible. Annette will now give you some more background on the book, the Pfeffer family, and on the people who were honored by Yad Vashem.
Some people may know this story already, but I'm going to tell it anyway. A couple of years ago, we opened up the closet doors in the back of the synagogue, which had been closed for decades. And we rediscovered dozens and dozens and boxes of archive documents. And those documents went on all throughout the war years. So we were very surprised. So what we did, we spread them out all over the tables and we started to read them, as it's called, diagonally, just, you know, to see what have we got. We got many stories. And when I wrote this book, and I made the films that are in the book, I thought, oh, again, another Shoah story, another Holocaust story. You know, nowadays the word Holocaust has been abused by too many, even politicians who do that without any historical awareness. But I feel that I have an obligation to the stories that lie there to tell these stories anyway. But to give it a twist that shows the little lights, the little bright little pieces of light, the little rays of light that can be found in that pitch dark time, the pitch dark era. Amongst the dozens of papers that we found, there was a list with Jewish children on the regular schools in this municipality, which up till 5 years ago was Bussum mainly, and then Naarden joined, and then Muiden-Muidenberg, and now we are officially one municipality. People have asked me, you know, Gooise Mere, what's that? You know, Gooise in Jewish means non-Jew, but there's still Jews in Gooise Mere. So anyway, so we found that list, and there were names of children staying at the regular schools all over the area. And there was one family, and I saw 6 children there. Yaakov, Rachel, Meir, Avram, Judah, and Joseph. 6 kids, aged 6 to 16. And I was thinking, and you know, we are being killed every day with statistics. And I was thinking, in that warped way of thinking, statistically, how big are the chances that they all 6 survived? We went on in our papers. We went through the papers and we came to May 1945, which was the month of liberation, that Bussum was liberated by the Canadians. And I saw a list of people who got a new house. And I found the family Pfeffer, the Pfeffer family, with all the 6 children, Yaakov, Meir, Rachel, etc. All of them, a day after the liberation, they got a new house. How did that happen? Where were they during the war? Were they hiding? Couldn't have been in camps, because then they wouldn't have had enough time to come back. So, you know, curious as I am, I went on did a big internet search, and I found a Pfeffer relative staying in Canada, in Toronto. Got in touch with her, and she told me, oh, how nice to find someone from Bussum. That's where my family comes from. They moved to Canada not long after the war in a very, very special way. We're going to see that a little bit about that later on, how it happened. And we all survived. And we survived in one room, 8 people. There are some children here in the audience, Yael and Noam. Can you imagine? 8 people in one room, 8 mensen in één kamer, more than 2 years long. Can you imagine 1 hour in lockdown in one room? No, you can't, you see? But they did. They survived. So I'd like to show you, first of all, to see who this family was. Short clip, that's also in the book. You get the book, Noam? You can see it with your phone. Let's see a first clip. Who was this family?
In het dorp Bussum, niet ver van Amsterdam, woonde aan de stationsweg de familie Pfeffer met hun 6 kinderen. Sarah Pfeffer en haar man Jonas runden samen een bloemenwinkel in de drukke stationsweg. Hun oudste zoon was Jaap, die een echte studiebol was en ooit dokter wilde worden. Het enige meisje van het stel was Rachel en haar grote hobby was accordeon spelen. Zoon Max had een grote droom van voetballertje in Bussum uit te groeien tot speler in het Nederlands elftal. Appie was niet zo dol op school. Hij speelde liever op straat met zijn vriendjes. Juda en Joop vonden het allermooist rennen door de velden rond het dorp.
So that's the beginning of the story. The pre-war days that were happy, very happy childhood in Bussum, running around in the fields, playing football at BFC, you know, the famous Bussum Football Club. Here you see Max going to his football club. Only when he arrived there was a plaque on the fence saying, "Forbidden for Jews." That moment stayed with him for the rest of his life. That moment of pain and humiliation and frustration. So they knew that shortly after this, they had to go into hiding. So let's see what happened when they were into hiding. When they went into hiding, that's an animation, if I get it correctly, with so many slides. That's an animation of Max. The next film, please, Amir, in 1 second. We can see here that they were in this room, and from one window, they could watch the street. And then they thought, oh, if the Germans come, we have nowhere to go. So they made an extra hiding place, and there they could hide when there was a raid, and there were 2 raids, which they survived.
Max lag die nacht wakker. Hij stond op en ging bij het raam kijken. De straat lag er doodstil bij en door de wolken scheen wat maanlicht op het stille dorp. In de verte kon hij zelfs de toren van de kerk zien, die net op dat moment 10 uur sloeg. Ineens kreeg hij een beangstigende gedachte. Hij kon niet wachten tot de volgende dag en ging naast zijn vader op bed liggen. Papa, word wakker, ik moet je iets belangrijks vertellen. Toen was het ineens voorbij. De soldaten liepen de trap weer af. Sst, zei mama zacht. Nog niet opstaan. Ze kunnen nog terugkomen. Na een paar minuten klopte Annie op de geheime kastdeur. Ze konden er weer uit. De soldaten waren verdwenen, de vrachtwagen was weg. Nog zwaar ademend van de schrik kwam iedereen tevoorschijn. Max kon eindelijk hoesten. Papa klopte hem op zijn rug en toen hij weer gekalmeerd was, zei hij: "Wat een geluk dat jij bij het raam bent gaan staan. Ik wil er niet aan denken wat er anders zou zijn gebeurd."
Dus we hebben al begrepen
Max
dat de familie het heeft overleefd. Maar wie waren dat? Wie waren de redders van de familie Pfeffer? In het eerste begin, en eind 42, sorry? Oh, sorry, English, yeah, excuse me. Good you remind me. Who were the ones who rescued the Pfeffer family? To begin with, it was Philip and Willy Beneker, and they hid them in their house, but there were more people staying there. A sister of Sarah Pfeffer was staying there with her husband, and the whole attic was already full, so there was not enough place. So they looked for a new place to stay. And then they came up to a house not far from the canal, in one of the big canals in Bussum. And they went there. It's called the Vaartweg, and Vaart means a canal. Yes, please, can I have the next slide? They went there, and I found this beautiful painting, which was made in 1944, made by a Dutch Bussum painter, Jan Verhoeven. And he painted more or less what the view was from the room where Max was standing behind the curtain. But he also looked inside into the streets. And there was the house, which now we can see in the top floor. You see the front on the top floor, the first floor, the bedroom there was the place where they were hiding for 2.5 years, nearly 2.5 years. What is interesting to say, to see that Sarah Pfeffer, the mum, said that she was most proud of her children because they never had a fight during those years with each other. And one of the children told me, well, they made up for that after the war, but that's a side story. Who lived in the house? In the house was the Makinje family. And there is Gerrit and Tjitske. and their 3 children, Annie, Tinus, and Jan. And Annie was a good friend of Rachel Pfeffer. They went together to school. And you see the big cross there, and that's because Gerrit was a stonemason and he made gravestones in the backyard of the house. So now let's see Annie. Where's Annie? Here's Annie, and on the second picture you see Rachel as a young child and Annie and a bit younger at school together. So that's where they knew each other from, and that's how they ended up with the Marquinhos family. Right, at some point the Marquinhos, mainly the mother, Tjitske, really got very nervous about these 8 people staying in the house. And after the second raid, she had a nervous breakdown and the family moved to the neighbor, which we can see now. It's Henk Bakker. He lived right next door. He wasn't only called Bakker, he was also a baker, which Bakker is in Dutch. On the next picture, we can see Henk and his wife Pietje with their 4 children, no longer in Holland, but in Australia. And for Yad Vashem, we had to find the descendants of Henk and Pietje, and we looked for Henk Bakker on the internet. Good luck. Even in Queensland, we found 17 Henk Bakkers, but there was only one couple, Henk and Pietje Bakker, and somehow we got in touch with them. And yesterday evening, I spoke with Katerina, the little girl on the right, and she sent me this photo. It was very, very exciting to talk to them right from Queensland, Australia. Then there was some part that there was a train derailed by the resistance in Bussum, and there was ammunition on board of that train. So they had to evacuate the whole area. So the family moved to another family. The family was called Snell, and they lived near 2 beautiful hotels. We get to what happened there later on. They lived there and they stayed there for the last couple of months. But the ones who played through the whole period a very important role were 3 people actually. The first one is Dr. Martens. He was the head of the Catholic hospital in Bussum, and he hid tens of children and grown-ups in the hospital as so-called patients. You see the nuns there, and I've known Jewish people who were born there, and so the first image in my head must have been a nun bending over my little bed, and they saved tens and tens of people. We have a picture of him also in family, and his practice in the Albrechtlaan, which is near the station, and he had a nice family life. The little boy there is Jan Martens, and also Jan Martens, the nephew, and he still alive. He's 92, and he's still alive and lives in Bussum. Yes, and another doctor, very important, very instrumental in the saving of the Pfeffers, is Dr. Boon. Dr. Jacob Boon, who was the head of the Protestant hospital, the Diakonesse Ziekenhuis. And he also saved a lot of people who were born in that hospital, saved their lives. Just yesterday, again, I heard from someone who said that the family that I'll come to later, the baby was born in that hospital and inscribed in the municipality on under a false name. And Dr. Boon and his wife were arrested at some point by the Germans and stayed in the very infamous prison in Scheveningen for months. And Dr. Boon even was there twice. And still, amazingly, he kept helping Jewish co-citizens from Bussum. Here is the Boon family. What's very interesting is that Mrs. Boon is Jewish. And because her husband was not Jewish, she managed to survive. And on the picture on the right there, you can see the 3 children in post-war time, and one of their daughters moved to Israel, is currently living there. But maybe even more instrumental was the following person. This was the very, very beloved Tante Fifi, Auntie Fifi. It was Leni van Weering, and her illegal name was Auntie Fifi. She came with food, she came with books, she came with ration cards. She came just to help them survive this depressing period of, fear and hunger and pain and illnesses, she was always there for them. And you can see she was doing a lot more because she was commemorated with the Medal of Honor of the Resistance in 1982. She got that medal because she helped dozens and dozens of people, not just Jews, but also people from the illegal, from the resistance. She was very instrumental in it. I'm just finding out more and more about her, and she was an amazing person. And I spoke to her granddaughter this also yesterday, and she said she was flamboyant, she was beautiful, she loved big hats, and she would always embarrass us by when she would shop with us, she would start singing in the middle of the shop or start dancing, and we hated that. But she was a great grandma, and you can see here, you know, she loved to look good, and she did look good. Now, the family survived all of that, and then what happened? Bussum was liberated by the Canadians, as I said, and through some very miraculous way, which you have to read the book if you want to find out, Rachel Pfeffer, one of the children, at the time of the liberation, she was 19 years old, she met a Jewish Canadian soldier, and they fell in love and they got married, first here in the old municipality of Bussum, and then in the synagogue in Bussum as well. And later on, Rachel moved to Canada and the rest of the family followed soon after. So let's watch a little film about the wedding and then about their life in Canada.
De dag van de bruiloft was aangebroken. Jurken waren genaaid van de prachtige stoffen die uit Canada waren opgestuurd. Papa verzorgde natuurlijk zelf de bloemen en boeketten. En van goede vrienden konden ze echte koetsjes en paarden lenen. De jongens kregen allemaal een keurig pak aan en zelfs een vlinderstrikje. Shelley was een prachtige bruid en naast haar liep Annie, die bijna even trots was. Ze hoorden ontroerd hoe Shelley en Marty ja zeiden op de vraag of ze met elkaar wilden trouwen. En mama pinkte een traantje weg. Na afloop was er een groot feest waarvoor Sarah dagen in de keuken had staan koken en bakken. Max keek om zich heen naar alle blije gezichten en dacht, wat hebben we vaak geluk gehad. En wat waren er steeds geweldige mensen die niet bang waren om ons te helpen. Zonder al die beschermengeltjes was ons verhaal niet goed afgelopen. Niet lang nadat Shelley was getrouwd met Marty, vertrok de familie Pfeffer naar Toronto in Canada. En daar bouwden ze een nieuw leven op. Ook de jongens trouwden en er kwamen al snel kinderen. Elke verjaardag was een feest met heel veel ooms, tantes, neefjes en nichtjes. Sarah Pfeffer schreef een boek over de onderduik in Bussum en daarover werd een uitzending gemaakt in Amerika. In Hollywood keken de Pfeffers hun ogen uit. Shelley voelde zich net een filmster. Ook Annie en haar moeder waren er en natuurlijk tante Vivi. Hier gaan ze op weg naar de studio waar de opnamen werden gemaakt. Zelfs de kamer was nagebouwd. En hier zie je ze. De presentator Ralph Edwards, Joop, die nu in Canada Johnny heette, en Jaap die Jack werd. Shelley bleef Shelley en Meijer, die nu Max heette. Judah werd Joe en Abraham heette Alan. Op de voorste rij zitten tante Vivi, Sarah en Jonas. De Pfeffers bouwden hun leven weer op in hun nieuwe vaderland.
Ja, ze gingen naar Canada toe.
De dag van de bruiloft was aangebroken. Jurken waren genaaid.
Ze gingen naar Canada toe, maar ze zijn af en toe nog naar Nederland gekomen. En één keer, heel bijzonder. Slide, please. Oh, sorry, Dutch again. So they moved to Canada and they built up their life, a new life. And we have a message from Hartley Pfeffer from Ottawa, I think. He lives in Canada to give his view on this story and on those who helped the family survive.
The room was 12 feet long by 11 feet wide. It was bare, it was cold, but it was a refuge. The opening words of the book, Hidden for 1,000 Days, that my grandmother, Sarah Pfeffer, wrote to tell her story of how she, my grandfather Jonas, my mother Rachel, and her brothers Jack, Alan, Max, Joe, and Johnny survived in hiding for 2 years, 9.5 months in Bussum during World War II. Their story is clearly one of courage and resilience, certainly of my grandparents, my mother, and all of my uncles. Nevertheless, they could not have survived without the extraordinary courage, intelligence, and selflessness of those we are gathered here today to honor. Gerrit Makinya, who with his family provided the room in their attic and guarded the secret with their lives. Helena Maria Van Weering, known as Auntie Fifi, provided the spiritual support, ration cards, and library books for the mental and physical well-being of the Veffers. Dr. Martens provided extraordinary medical assistance with house calls for the inevitable illnesses that occurred and with almost no tools at his disposal. Hendrik and Pietja Bakker provided scarce food and additional shelter, particularly during some harrowing raids by the Germans, and helped find the Snell family who took the Veffers in near the end of the war. Dr. Jacob Bohn, who protected my Uncle Alan in the Protestant hospital when there was a crisis and the children had to be dispersed. Hendrika Elizabeth Benneker and her son Philip Benneker provided logistical and transportation support, again, when members of the family had to be moved. Tobias and Katriana Schnell, who also courageously and gracefully provided shelter towards the end of the war. The Veffers suffered tremendously during their period in hiding: lack of access to fresh air, small crowded space for 8 people, starvation, acute illnesses, loneliness, constant fear of discovery and death, separation and depression. Yet all of these privations were endured with dignity and the constant support of those truly remarkable individuals. After the war ended, my mother, Rachel, married my father, Martin Stern, a Canadian soldier in Bussum, and they became the catalyst to help all the Veffers emigrate to Toronto, Canada. The 6 Veffer children produced 15 grandchildren, 27 great-grandchildren, and 29 great-great-grandchildren living all over North America and Israel. On behalf of the very large and grateful family, we say thank you. My grandmother concludes her story with, "Many families hid from the Germans in Holland, but few came through alive. No other family of 8 remained alive to tell the tale in circumstances such as ours. So there is a difference from the usual war story in this, our own tale. Yes, there is a difference, a happy ending. That is the difference."
Yes, that's the difference. That's the difference. They survived. They moved to Canada, but even after the war, they came back to Holland several times. And this is a unique photo. There is Auntie Fifi at the piano. Shelley is at the back with her husband, Marty. Then Annie is in the middle. And the oldest son of Shelley, Hartley, with his wife, Dorothy, expecting the first child. So these are 3 generations, Veffer, is Fifi and Annie, who saved them. Amazing. This picture was taken in 1981. So when I read the book by Sarah, Hidden for 1,000 Days, I translated it to Dutch, and I would like to publish that. But before that, I thought it's more important to tell the story to the children of the age of the Veffer kids. So Noam and Yael, would you please come here and receive the first 2 books? You come over there? You come over there, please? Yes. The first 2 books of the Veffer. So I'll come here. I don't know. Am I still in the picture? Okay. So, come. Look, here's the book. So that's the first one for you, and this one is for you. And I hope maybe you're a bit too small to read it yet, but I hope when you'll be a bit bigger, you read it. And of course, for you as a football player, of course, the picture. That's for you. So I hope you will. I want to enjoy it, but I hope you'll find it interesting. And there's even some funny parts in it, yeah. And it's about football, you know. He's in the same football club as you play in, right? Okay, so enjoy the book. And now we're going to finish. Almost done. So go sit down 1 more second, and then we're done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. I hope that the book will be out soon, and I just want to say that the book is going to be on sale, but all the revenues are going to be for the committee to finance further projects in this age and day that it's very important to see this history as it was and not to use it for political usages. I just heard today that Robert Kennedy Jr. is comparing. Yes, it's horrible. Okay, and again, we read a lot about Anne Frank, true, but this family was hidden and was not betrayed by anyone. The whole neighborhood knew about it. The whole Maquinho family knew about it, including the children, and they didn't open their mouths. And that's the biggest amazing thing that happened, and what we call the miracle of Bussum. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette, for your story on the Pfeffer family. And again, it's an amazing story. And I would still like to stress that there are many stories are told about the attitude of the Dutch during the war. Some people call it grijs. There was a book, Grijs Verleden. But I would like to stress that there were so many courageous people, like the people who saved the Pfeffer family. And it's, as I mentioned, there were more than 5,000 people honored by Yad Vashem, and that's a relatively great number of people. So there were so many people, and we should be thankful for their attitude. Having said that, we would like to end this meeting by now. Together with the mayor, we will go to the memorial place here in the town hall where we have hold a minute of silence. And unfortunately for the people who are watching this tonight, this presentations by Zoom, they cannot see it because there are no cameras there. But I would like you all to thank you for your attention. And now we will go to the minute of silence.